Hello and welcome back to Skypothesis. We are two brothers who believe Skyrim to be an endlessly replayable game. We created this channel to share our ideas and character builds that have helped us reach a deeper roleplay experience. We take inspiration from a variety of sources in the world of fantasy entertainment to create these unique builds. Until The Elder Scrolls 6 is finally released, we will keep returning to the frozen north of Skyrim for our RPG fix. This week, we are excited to share our next character, one of my personal favorites, the Whiteskull Warlock. He combines the savagery of a werewolf pirate with the cunning of a brilliant scholar. Alteration is a super unique and underappreciated school of magic, and we can't wait to showcase it in this build. Let's get started. This old orc was the official mage for a pack of werewolf pirates known as the Whiteskulls. Though they primarily roamed the seas between High Rock and Stros Mackay, their reputation was known far and wide among sailors and other pirates. It was common knowledge that you do not double-cross the Whiteskulls. They were recognizable instantly by their matching tattoos. Each member bore the mark of a white skull on their face and made no effort to conceal their identity as werewolves. Hammerfell and High Rock had high bounties on their heads, but only the most foolish and desperate tried to hunt them down. None who tried ever returned. In spite of their animalistic appearances, they were not mindless killers who raided without cause. They were efficient with their efforts and extremely organized. Each member of the Whiteskulls filled a role, and loot was split evenly. Each member knew the pecking order, and divisions were dealt with immediately and harshly by their captain. The Whiteskull Warlock was the only mage among them, and as he was the oldest, he stayed behind on most raids to keep an eye on their loot and work on his magical experiments. Their headquarters was a hidden alcove along an uninhabited portion of Hammerfell's north shore. A labyrinth of sharp rocks barred the entrance and deterred trespassers. Deep in the alcove was a hidden cave. There, the warlock made his arcane workshop. He used various scrying and divination methods to predict the weather and plot courses that would help the captain evade enemy armadas. He enchanted their weapons and more recently began successfully transmuting minerals. With his ever-increasing talents in alteration magic, it became more profitable for the Whiteskulls to abandon raiding and become hustlers of illegal goods. As the years passed, they became so wealthy that local economies would crash when they visited. Their loot pile grew rapidly, but their reputation diminished. The fear they once put in the hearts of sailors and raiders was forgotten, and bounty hunters began eyeing the potential reward money as worth the risk. One day, the unthinkable happened. Their ship was cornered, and a combined force of mercenaries from Hammerfell and High Rock tried to force a surrender. The ships approached and prepared to board. The Whiteskulls were significantly outnumbered and knew this was their final stand. In werewolf form, they collectively lunged onto the enemy ships and made their last stand, tearing through the sailors, taking hundreds down with them. The warlock watched on helplessly through his divination pool. A separate band of bounty hunters had found their hideout, and he had just enough time to gather his research materials and load a chest full of soul gems onto a handcart. As the mercenaries flooded into their alcove, the warlock had pulled his small cart up the mountainside and fled into the desert. He never found out if any other Whiteskull survived. The roleplay begins several months later, with the Whiteskull Warlock waking up in an Imperial prison cart. He had fled eastward, trying to find a place where he could continue his research in peace. He was making great strides with Alteration and was so close to finally cracking the secret of dual enchanting, a legendary feat only attainable by the most skilled enchanters in history. To continue, he needed access to arcane workshops and libraries, but wanted to work away from prying eyes. The College of Winterhold seemed like the best destination. It was secluded, had resources, and was completely independent. Unfortunately, his cart full of research and soul gems was destroyed in the Imperial Stormcloak skirmish. Miraculously, he flees Helgen with his life and immediately gets to work picking up where he left off. With this perspective, grinding up your skills at the beginning of the game doesn't have to be role-played away. He had a cart full of research and soul gems that he lost, and now he's trying to make up lost ground. For this build, we want to explore the sinister side of alteration magic. When you enter the Dark Brotherhood Sanctuary, there is an alteration skill book called Sithis, sitting alone on a pedestal. So, why then is Sithis associated with alteration? Sithis is nothing, the absence of matter. Sithis created Lorkhan, who became the world of Mundus. Rather than diving down this rabbit hole, we recommend watching a video from Fudge Muppet called Who is Sithis? The perspective from that video will make playing as this character much more satisfying. The Whiteskull Warlock wants to understand the forces underneath each spell cast, how Alteration augments the natural world, and by manipulating the age-old forces of stasis and change. We will be using every Alteration skill in the game and role-playing a couple expansions to it that we'll get to later on. This character is a werewolf, but unlike other werewolves, his animal blood manifests itself as an unending hunger for knowledge. He consumes books and tomes as an animal would devour its prey, and this hunger drives his roleplay. His playstyle is fairly straightforward. He plays as either an assassin, sneaking around and getting stealth kills with a dagger, or as a werewolf, charging in and dealing with his enemies head-on. Either way, he will carefully consider what alteration spells he has available first, and use everything in his arsenal to gain the upper hand. One of the best parts of playing as this character is that he can complete every major questline without any huge leaps in the roleplay. The first faction is the Companions. You encounter them on your way to Whiterun and they invite you to join. He identifies them quickly as werewolves, and considers their order nothing more than glorified mercenaries. He joins anyway because at this point he needs all the coin he can get. The only roleplay hiccup is in that of becoming a werewolf. For his backstory, we've roleplayed that he already was a werewolf and joined his blood with that of the Circle to receive new gifts of Hearseen. However, you could roleplay that he was not a werewolf previously and was acting as the Whiteskulls' official mage as more of a contracted job. With this perspective, he could decide to become a werewolf to honor his fallen brothers. We'll leave this roleplay choice up to you. Next is the Civil War. While running to Riverwood, Hadvar says he thinks you've earned a pardon. We chose to join the Legion early for a few reasons. First is to get an official pardon from the General. He has no intention of going clean, but at least now no bounties from his past life will be a problem. Second, he joins because he blames Ulfric for the loss of his research. And third, because he has no money and the Legion is paying. Most importantly though, we absolutely want Ulfric's clothes to complete the aesthetic, and looks are very important to us. For this reason, the Civil War is the first questline that we complete in its entirety. Once Ulfric is killed, his personal vendetta against him is satisfied, and he can resume his quest to uncover the secrets of Alteration. We pursued the Dark Brotherhood, Thieves Guild, and College of Winterhold questlines in tandem, roleplaying that money earned in the Guild and Brotherhood was used to fund his research at the college. Alright, now let's discuss creating the character. The Whiteskull Warlock's ensemble is composed of the Stormcloak Officer's helmet, enchanted with Fortify Alteration and Fortify Magicka, Ulfric's clothes, enchanted with Fortify Alteration and Fortify Magicka regen, the Stormcloak Officer's boots are enchanted with Muffle and Stamina regen, and Stormcloak Officer's gauntlets with Fortify Sneak and Fortify Magicka. For auxiliary gear, he will wear an amulet enchanted with Fortify Magicka and Fortify Health, and have an array of rings to have on hand depending on the situation. These include the Ring of Hearseen and the 4 unique werewolf rings obtainable from the Frostmoon pack on Solstheim. Each bear a unique buff to the werewolf skills, and you'll eventually want to collect all 4. In his right hand, he will carry a self-enchanted ebony dagger called Retribution, which will feature Absorb Health and Fiery Soul Trap. In his left hand, he carries the Wabbajack, or the Skull of Corruption. The skull is handy to have on hand for sticky situations that catch you unprepared. However, it only deals 50 damage per cast, so we recommend keeping the difficulty on Adept or Expert so that this staff always stays useful. It's unique in that it doesn't cast a projectile, but inflicts its damage instantly wherever you are pointing. This makes it incredibly handy to whittle away the health of a dragon while they are obnoxiously flying around. Moving on to spells and shouts. As mentioned previously, he will learn and use every alteration spell in the game. However, his skill goes beyond what's available in the game, so we are adding a couple more. Previous titles have allowed levitation, so to roleplay this, we will occasionally use the Climic Supplies glitch to roleplay floating up walls and cliffs to access unreachable areas. Alternatively, you could use the bucket glitch, but we never got this to work as consistently. There are lots of videos on YouTube describing how to do this. Next is water walking. Keep Ozzydoll's boots in your inventory for this, but we roleplay that it's a cast alteration spell. Next is simply the Become Ethereal shout. We roleplay this as an alteration spell in which he alters the matter of his own body to be temporarily formless. Finally, we have the Wabbajack, which allows him to sometimes shapeshift his enemies. The book Daughter of the Niben describes the Aelids as using a form of alteration to shapeshift slightly, allowing them to breathe underwater. We imagine this principle could be expanded upon further and can account for spells that shapeshift the matter of living things, such as the spell cast from the Wabbajack. For shouts, the Warlock views the Thu'um as another source to draw magic from, only the voice is used instead of channeling magicka directly. He will learn all that he can, but make most frequent use of Marked for Death, Slow Time, Disarm, and Become Ethereal. Alright, now let's discuss stats and perk spread. We leveled the Whiteskull Warlock with about 2 magicka, 2 health, and 1 stamina. Eventually, you'll have several pieces of gear that fortify the cost of alteration magic, but you will still want a healthy pool for unperked spells. For the Standing Stone, we will be taking the Lord Stone for the extra tankiness. This buff still applies while in werewolf form, and will stack with your alteration flesh spells. Finally, we chose to play as an orc, both for roleplay and the amazing racial ability Berserker Rage. By the time you hit level 40, you will want the following perks. In Alteration, we will perk the entire tree, with the exception of Mage Armor, as we are incorporating pieces of light armor in our gear. In Enchanting, take all 5 perks in Enchanter and head up the middle of the tree to get the perk extra effect. In Sneak, take 3 perks in Stealth and the right spiral up to Assassin's Blade and the left spiral up to Silent Roll. In Alchemy, take all 5 in Alchemist, Physician, and Benefactor. Alchemy is not the focus of this build, but Fortify Alteration potions, Invisibility, and various potions of resistance and healing are super handy to stock up on. Finally, we will be placing 4 perks in Illusion for the sole purpose of getting Quiet Casting. This is absolutely mandatory to turn enemies into chickens from the shadows. If you plan to play past level 40, you could add more to the Sneak tree and add smithing to craft more powerful daggers. And now it's time to move on to our favorite part of every build, the special moves. First, we have Sheogorath's Polymorph, which is the combination of Quiet Casting and a well-placed Wabbajack spell. First, sneak into position and then cast Wabbajack on your enemies. Depending on the result, you might have a front row seat to an arena of chaos. Next is Hircine's Polymorph, which is the Beast Stone and a Potion of Invisibility. A deal with Hircine has allowed you to temporarily gain the Werebear transformation. We follow Werebear up with a Potion of Invisibility to roleplay that it's actually you that turns into the Werebear. Unlike the wolf form, he has no control of his actions and doesn't regain consciousness until after the spell wears off. Next is Even the Odds, performed by shouting Disarm and then collecting the opponent's weapon using telekinesis. Just when he thought nobody could teach him anything new, some Khajiit from the Thieves Guild proved him wrong. Next is Shade of the Whiteskulls, which is the combination of Frostmoon Howl and Totem of Brotherhood. This will allow you to summon 2 of your former pack members from Hircine's hunting grounds. Frostmoon Howl is the passive ability granted by the Ring of the Moon, which makes your howls last 25% longer. This will allow you to keep your former pack with you just a little while longer. Up next, we have Ultimate Beast Form, which is the combination of a Fortify Alteration potion, Dragonhide, Berserker Rage, and then Werewolf form. This takes advantage of the fact that certain defensive and offensive buffs carry over into werewolf form, and it will turn you into an absolute monster of a werewolf. Few enemies will stand a chance against such a display of raw power. Finally, we have Stasis, which is the combination of Mass Paralysis, Slow Time, and Frostmoon Instinct. The Whiteskull Warlock gains an incredibly deep understanding of these 2 core forces of the universe, stasis and change. Time is the creation of Ariel, or Akatosh, an enemy of Sithis. The fact that he gains the ability to halt time itself, if even for a moment, is a testament to his power as a mage. Imagine a werewolf that can move through time and slaughter an entire army in an instant. That's got to be one of the most terrifying foes to face imaginable. And with those special moves completed, we are ready to wrap up the Whiteskull Warlock. This character made for an incredibly satisfying and challenging playthrough, and is definitely one of our favorites. Would love to hear what sort of special moves you would come up with. As always, thank you for supporting us by watching our videos. We'll be back in a few weeks with more builds, so if you like what we do, please like and subscribe to keep the magic of Skyrim alive. We'll see you next time, right here on Skypothesis.